singled out unfairly.
We defend our nation.
You are saying we could have a cure for cancer.
We'll have treatments for many cancers in this decade, and they're going to come from India.
Downside is that it could potentially wipe us out. But let's start with the upside first.
The upsides are absolutely enormous. The potential uses of this are almost unlimited.
I only discovered AutoGPTs about a week ago and started writing about them. And after I started writing about them,
Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas. I'm Baryl Vanneihsangi. Welcome to the show. On the show tonight, America wants to probe an assassination plot against a Khalistani terrorist on soil, but it won't act against his repeated threats against India. Just what is America waiting for? Why is Pannun still free? What will it take for America to act? We decode. Also on the show tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he won't stop until Hamas is destroyed. Israel will not allow international forces in Gaza but act alone. Why is Netanyahu prolonging the war? Is it for national security or political survival? The latest government data shows alarming statistics of murder in India's Hindi heartland. We tell you just why do people commit to kill. Also on the show, the man who threatens a nuclear war more often than not is shedding tears in public. What makes Kim Jong-un cry? We begin with a disturbing question, a question which should be asked of America and all those who claim they are committed to the worldwide war against terrorism. Why is Pannun, the leader of a violent Indian separatist group who has found sanctuary in America, walking free? This is not a general question. It is a specific question. Pannun has just threatened to blow up the Indian Parliament on December 13th. You heard that right. Blow up the Indian Parliament while it is in session, killing as many members and staff as he can. Why does America shield the professed terrorist despite his threats against India? Why is this fountainhead of Khalistani terrorism not in custody? Will American authorities act only after he has acted on his terror threat? We do not make this demand lightly. We ask on the basis of evidence. The man we're about to show you on your screen is an all too familiar face in India. His name is Gurpatwant Singh Pannun. He is the head of the terror group known as SFJ, short for Sikhs for Justice. This terrorist Pannun has released a chilling video. He has threatened to attack India's new parliament building on December 13th. Now look at the video on your screens. We have muted it so that our channel does not become a platform for hate speech and incitement to terrorism and violence. This Khalistani terrorist, whose well-being seems to be of paramount importance to the West, has brazenly threatened to blow up the Indian parliament, the symbol of India's democracy itself. The level of arrogance is just staggering. In response to an alleged failed murder plot against him, Pannun has released this video. In 2001, the terrorists who attacked the Indian parliament that day were from the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, terrorist outfits operating from Pakistan. The Khalistani separatist movement has always been supported by Pakistani hawks who have used the Pakistan intelligence agency, the ISI, as their assault arm against India. 22 years ago, 6 police personnel, 2 parliament security personnel and 1 gardener were killed in the terror attacks. Pannun's video featured a poster of the parliament attack convict Afzal Guru with the caption "Delhi Banega Khalistan," which literally translates to "Delhi will be made Khalistan." In his video, Pannun says that his response, quote unquote, will shake the very foundations of India's parliament. According to reliable reports, Pannun is not making idle threats. His group has been recruiting people for the execution of this attack. Pannun is a designated terrorist who, from the comfort of his terror headquarters in New York City, routinely issues threats against India, its leaders, its diplomats, and its people. And this time, well, it has been stirred by unsubstantiated reports that India has been planning his elimination. This charge was made by Canada, but Canada refused to provide reliable evidence of this charge. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, however, persuaded some elements in the American establishment to pick up this unsubstantiated narrative. Pannun's threat comes at a time when the Parliament's winter session is underway. It will go on till December 22nd. New Delhi takes this threat seriously. The city has been placed in a heightened state of alert. Security has already been stepped up in and around the Parliament and across the Indian national capital. But what is the response from the US? After all, Pannun lives in New York, not Delhi. And according to reports, the US is in the process of assessing what this terrorist, Pannun, is planning specifically. The irony is unbelievable. An acknowledged terrorist says publicly that his group members will blow up India's parliament. This amounts to public confession, and America is still waiting for evidence. Washington or the New York police are yet to react to this chilling video. This begs the question, if a similar threat had been made within the US, would the Americans have been equally complacent? The answer is a clear no. This is not the first time Pannun has unleashed his vitriol against India. Earlier, he threatened to blow up India's flag carrier, Air India. His threats have been accompanied by political action. He has organized referendums endorsing the creation of a separate state from India. Born in Khankot village in Punjab, Pannun is the son of a former State Agriculture Marketing Board employee. He is believed to have graduated from the Punjab University in 1990s and founded the SFJ in 2007. In 2019, the Indian government banned the SFJ under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and for its anti-India activities. A year later, Pannun was declared an individual terrorist under the same law for promoting separatist activities and for encouraging the youth to take up arms. In September this year, Pannun warned Hindu Canadians to leave Canada amid the diplomatic row that broke out between India and Canada over the killing of another Khalistani terrorist, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, in Canada. Pannun blamed India for Nijjar's death, but had no evidence for this, of course. Pannun currently faces 33 criminal cases in India. A court in India has issued non-bailable warrant against him. Now, with this latest video, Pannun has threatened India 3 times in 3 months. Yet, last month, the US Department of Justice made a bizarre allegation against an unidentified Indian official. They say that this person orchestrated a hit job on Pannun. Consider this. A designated terrorist continuously issues threats against India, and the US, which is supposed to be India's key partner in countering terrorism, remains quiet and indifferent. How long will the US allow its soil to be used by anti-India forces? 13 December is only a few days away. Will Washington act? That's the big question. Well, shifting focus to Pakistan now. Last night, we told you how anti-India terrorists were mysteriously dying in Pakistan. Turns out, the list is only growing. We've received reports of another mysterious killing. It happened 3 days back, the 3rd of December to be precise. The man killed has been identified as Hanzla Adnan. He was shot dead in Karachi's Nizamabad area. Who exactly was this guy now? Well, Here's what we know so far. He was linked to the Lashkar-e-Toiba. He belonged to the outfit's political front, the Pakistan Milli Muslim League. He was a former area councillor from the party. This man was also one of the conspirators of the 2015 Udhampur terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir in India. For the unversed, in August 2015, two Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists clad in civilian clothes attacked a border security force convoy. This attack unfolded on Jammu-Srinagar highway. 2 Indian Army personnel died in this attack, while 14 were injured. Hansla Adnan is said to have played a key role in this attack. Now he's dead, like many of his peers. As we've been telling you, the killing comes in the backdrop of several anti-India terrorists being killed under mysterious circumstances in Pakistan. The list is long and wide. Let me take you through it. On the 26th of February, Al-Badr terrorist Saeed Khalid Raza was shot dead in Karachi. On the 4th of March, Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist Bashir Ahmad Peer was killed in Rawalpindi. On the 6th of May, Khalistani terrorist Paramjeet Singh Panjwar was killed in Lahore. On the 15th of July, Jaish-e-Mohammed leader Maulana Sardar Hussain was killed in a targeted attack in Nawab Shah. On the 8th of September, the Lashkar-e terrorist Riaz Ahmed was killed in Rawalkot. And on the 13th of September, Maulana Zia-ur-Rahman was killed in Karachi. On the 12th of October, Jaish-e commander Maulana Shahid Latif was killed in Pasur. And on the 9th of November, Khwaja Shahid Ilyas was killed in Rawalkot. On the 10th of November, Muhammad Muzammil was killed in Sialkot. On the 12th of November, Maulana Rahim Ullah Tariq was killed in Karachi. And on the 2nd of December, Khalistani terrorist Lakhbir Singh died of a heart attack near Lahore. Now here's the thing. A few of these terrorists may have died of natural causes, but a majority have been killed in targeted attacks. These killings have started to spook Pakistan's security apparatus. It has even sent the country's rogue spy agency, the ISI, into a frenzy because the ISI too can't seem to figure out who orchestrated the killings. A homegrown terror group, or perhaps those outside Pakistan who sought justice and knew that this was the only way these men would pay for a life of terrorism. Pakistan's ISI, which has sponsored terrorism as its main preoccupation, is breaking its head in an effort to find clues. Some within the ISI are even linking these killings to India. Even if they can't attribute it to India's intelligence agencies, whatever be the case, one thing is clear. These killings definitely seem to be a part of a pattern Pakistan's security apparatus is breaking its head over. And just what is Benjamin Netanyahu's endgame in Gaza? Let's focus on the Israel-Hamas war now. Is it to disseminate Hamas? Is it to have control over all of Gaza? What happens when Israeli forces take over the entire Gaza Strip? Do they hand back charge eventually to the Palestinians? And why does Netanyahu want to prolong this war, even as the Biden administration is pushing for a faster solution? First, let's listen in to what Prime Minister Netanyahu has had to say.
After Hamas, Gaza needs to be demilitarized. But in order for Gaza to be demilitarized, there's just one force that can do it, and that power is the IDF. No international force can be responsible for that. We saw in other places that what happened when they brought in international forces for demilitarization. I'm not willing to close my eyes and accept any other arrangement.
So according to the statement, the IDF should retain control of Gaza even after the war. He said there will be no international involvement, no international forces. 60 days after the war, Israeli forces have encircled all of Gaza, pushing back thousands of civilians to rush to the Rafah border with Egypt or simply die. Netanyahu believes it must be a complete purge. Hamas must be wiped off from the face of the earth. He says he won't stop until he has achieved this goal. But can the Hamas be disarmed completely? Well, Its forces are spread all across. It has regional partners, support from other Arab nations. According to the Wall Street Journal, there are some 30,000 odd fighters in Gaza alone. Only 5,000 of those have been killed. You see, Hamas still retains the majority of its fighting forces. Can Netanyahu really destroy the Hamas? And how long is it going to take? According to the French President Macron, it would take a decade. Listen in to what he said.
Aujourd'hui, il est suspendu, vous l'avez très bien dit.
We are at a moment when Israeli authorities must more precisely define their objectives and their final goal, the total destruction of Hamas. Does anyone think it is possible? If this is the case, the war will last 10 years, and I don't think that anyone can seriously define these objectives, so they need to be defined.
La position de la France ne change pas sur ce point. Je me rendrai, vous l'avez dit, juste après.
And who says that Hamas is just going to wait and watch during this time? In 10 years, thousands more can join the group. Has Netanyahu factored in all of this? Maybe he has. He is Israel's longest-serving prime minister. He has been in the war zone himself. He was part of an elite unit of the Israeli army. Back in 1973, he served in the Yom Kippur War. Put simply, Netanyahu knows his way around wars. But is his strategy against Hamas? Netanyahu says it is impossible to achieve his goals without a ground incursion. So, he has razed Gaza to the ground. But what has that really achieved? Other than the fact that thousands of civilians have been killed. Hamas leaders, including its chief, Yahya Sinwar, are cooped up in underground tunnels. Netanyahu has a solution for this. And what exactly is that solution? To flood the tunnels with seawater. Israel has reportedly assembled a system of large pumps, and it is mulling to use it for flooding Gaza's vast network of underground tunnels. The system has at least 5 pumps. Each of them can draw water from the Mediterranean Sea and move thousands of cubic meters of water every hour. It would not only drive Hamas out, but also destroy the tunnels for good. How long would that take? Roughly a few weeks. Israeli forces have already flattened northern Gaza. Now they are aiming to force Hamas out of Khan Yunis. But where do hostages feature in Netanyahu's strategy? About 137 hostages still remain unaccounted for. What is Israel doing to bring them back? And what about the other civilians? Around 16,200 have been killed in Gaza. 7,100 of those are children. 4,900 women. All of this for what? Hamas is only 5,000 fighters short. Going by these numbers, for each Hamas personnel, more than 3 civilians have been killed. Israel has put the figure at 2. It even has a ratio. The Israeli military says 2 civilians killed for every Hamas militant is a tremendously positive ratio. Netanyahu is facing heavy external pressure to stop civilian casualties. Reports say the US wants the war to be wrapped up by January. Several other countries have condemned Israel for the deaths of innocents. Many of them are from West Asia. But civilians are still dying in hundreds by the day. Is Netanyahu simply trying to prolong the war? What would he achieve by that? More time in power, I guess. Because at this point, his survival in office cannot be taken for granted. His corruption trial has resumed. Would Israel risk a chance or a change in leadership rather during these tough times? Seems unlikely. The Hamas attack, which has shifted the focus from Netanyahu's failures to the war, and keeping that war going on now seems to be his survival strategy. He has vowed to continue till Hamas comes to an end. To our other big focus tonight, what motivates individuals in India to commit murder? Well, according to data released by the government, the primary reason for last year's homicides was disputes. The National Crime Records Bureau, the NCRB, has recently published its latest report titled Crime in India 2022. It paints a rather grim picture. According to the data, India recorded a total of 28,522 murder cases last year. To simplify it, an average of 78 killings took place every day, or more than 3 took place every hour. The overall number of murder cases, however, came down marginally. While dispute was the #1 motive for murders, homicides were also committed over personal vendetta or enmity. Nearly 10,000 murders took place last year over disputes, and over 3,000 murders took place for enmity. The other reasons mentioned was gain. Among the Indian states, Maharashtra recorded the highest number of cases of murders over disputes. Over 1,000 murders took place over disputes alone. As far as personal vendetta or enmity goes, Bihar topped that list. Other reasons for murder: dowry, witchcraft, child human sacrifice, communal reasons, religious reasons, caste conflict, honor killing, love affairs, family disputes, illicit relationships, extremism, insurgency, robberies, gang rivalry. All of this made it to the list. Interestingly, the top 5 states that reported the lowest cases of murder are all from the northeast, and Goa among them, as well as Sikkim. Sikkim recorded the least number of murder cases. Only 9 murder cases were reported in the state last year. On the other hand, the state of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, in other words, the Hindi heartland, recorded the highest number of murder cases. These are just a few of the significant findings from the new National Crime Records Bureau data on murders in India. So what do we know about the victims? In terms of age, 95.4% victims of murder were adults. Of total murder victims, over 8,000 were female. Men constituted about 70% of the murder victims. Well, diving into a historic moment in Mizoram's politics, for the first time, the state's voters have stepped away from their traditional choices, the Mizo National Front and the Congress. And this election has brought another first: more than one woman in the 40-member assembly. Among these trailblazers is Baryl Vanneihsangi of the newly crowned Mizoram People's Movement. At just 32, she is the youngest female member of the Legislative Assembly in Mizoram. In this segment of Gravitas Snapshot, we take a look at this new leader behind the ballot box.
I would like to encourage, and also I would like to send a message to all the female in any community and society that if you want to go for it, then you can go for it. So let's all, but we have to have the passion, and we have to, have the dream about it.
Baryl Vanneihsangi, a former radio jockey and television news presenter turned politician, has shaken up the political landscape in Mizoram. Winning the Aizawl South 3 seat by 1,414 votes, she defeated F. Lalnun Mavia of the Mizo National Front. Vanneihsangi, with her impressive 9,370 votes, has outrun her rivals in a race that was more than just the numbers. After all, her journey isn't about election figures. It is about positive social change. This former TV news presenter and corporator in Aizawl Municipal Corporation is a graduate from the Northeastern Hill University in Shillong. She is also a social media influencer with 254,000 followers on Instagram. She is clearly no stranger to the limelight. Breaking through social barriers, Vanneihsangi's win is a symbol of change. She sees her victory as a proud moment for women and a chance to alter the system and live up to expectations. But her road to power hasn't been easy. As a young woman in politics, she often had to fight to be taken seriously. Now her message to women everywhere? Don't let gender stop you from pursuing your passions. And she is not alone in this historic shift. Joining her in the assembly are ex-India footballer J.J. Lalrinpui of the Mizoram People's Movement and the Mizo National Front's Prova Chakma. In a series of firsts, Lalrin Pui beat her Congress opponent in Lunglei East, while Chakma secured the West Thuipui seat. These achievements should be seen in the broader context. Out of the 174 candidates contesting the Mizoram election, only 16 were women. Yet, despite these odds, 3 women became members of Legislative Assembly, making it the first time in the state's history. It is truly a new era for women in Mizoram's politics. But let's focus back on Vanneihsangi. Her vision extends beyond just being a member of Legislative Assembly. In a recent interview, she expressed her desire to revolutionize Mizoram's education sector. Young, energetic and daring, she believes her age is an asset to bring fresh ideas to the table. So moving on from radio waves to making political waves, Vanneihsangi's unique transition is definitely admirable. It's being seen as a real-world example of breaking the glass ceiling. Her story is a reminder that change often starts with a single voice daring to speak. In Mizoram, the winds of change are blowing strong, bringing new voices to the forefront. With Baryl Vanneihsangi not just a name on a ballot, but a symbol of a new era. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, if you're watching us from India, then this story might alarm you. According to the new report, over 50 companies in India that manufacture cough syrups have failed quality tests. 50 companies. The report in question has been released by the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, or the CDSCO. The report has been compiled based on lab examinations conducted across various states. Now, what does the report reveal? Let's take you through the findings. To start with, the report was conducted over 2,000 tests. Out of this, 128 tests failed to meet the standard quality requirements. They belong to at least 54 different companies. Now let's break the findings out for you. The Food and Drug Lab of Gujarat analyzed 385 samples. Out of this, 51 from 20 manufacturers failed the quality tests. Similarly, the Central Drugs Testing Lab in Mumbai analyzed 523 samples. Out of this, 10 samples from 10 firms failed the tests. Then we have the Regional Drug Testing Lab in Chandigarh. It released over 284 test reports. Out of this, 23 samples from 10 firms were found to be of substandard quality. The Pharma Commission in Ghaziabad released 502 reports. Of this, 29 samples from 9 firms failed the quality test. Now, these test reports are from lab examinations which were concluded across various Indian states. The tests were conducted after questions were raised on the effectiveness of these cough syrups. The Indian agencies in question decided to conduct these tests to show how India is being vigilant. It has initiated a process of tough scrutiny of such brands who may be selling substandard products, who may not be compliant with the prescribed specifications. It is also trying to check if such products contain any harmful substances that could pose health risks. Well, North Korea's declining birth rate has left dictator Kim Jong-un in tears, quite literally. While hosting the National Mothers Meeting, Kim Jong-un quietly wept and dabbed his face with a handkerchief. What was his appeal? To get women to pop out more babies. Here's our next report.
The auditorium was full. Seats were lined with North Korean women, most of them mothers. They were here for the National Mothers Meeting. On the panel sat North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Just slightly into the meeting, a speaker addressed the gathering. From what it appears, he talked of North Korea's plummeting birth rate. This was enough to make the dictator emotional. Tears welled into his eyes. Unable to control them, he looked down and wiped them off with a handkerchief. What did Kim Jong-un want? More little uns. Soon it set off a chain reaction. More handkerchiefs were out. Women in the audience started sobbing too. That's the hold Kim Jong-un has on his people. Dear mothers, he said, addressing the meeting. He further added that North Korea is being confronted with a host of social tasks and that mothers should join to tackle them. He called for women to have more babies. He said preventing a decline in the birth rate and good childcare are housekeeping duties. After the dictator's emotional plea, should we expect a surge in North Korea's birth rate? How dire is the situation really? The United Nations Population Fund estimates that the country's fertility rate stands at 1.8, and it has steadily declined over the last decade. But Kim Jong-un wants to change that. He wants more children who can carry forward the so-called revolution. He wants them to eliminate non-socialist practices. Few decades back, this was not the case. In the 70s and 80s, North Korea had birth control programs in place. Why, you may ask? In order to slow down a post-war population growth. Then in mid-1990s, there was a deadly famine. Millions died, many starved to death. Currently, the Hamid Kingdom has a population of 25 million, and it has never been able to feed them. So why does it expect its people to have more children? When North Korea shut its border in January 2020, authorities stopped importing grain from China. Also, the fertilizers and machinery needed to grow food on more than one occasion. Kim Jong-un has hinted at the seriousness of the situation. At one point, he openly referred to a food crisis. Despite this, he has prioritized funding his nuclear weapons program. Last year, he tested a record 63 ballistic missiles. The total cost of these tests is estimated to be more than $500 million. This is more than the amount needed to make up for North Korea's annual grain shortfall. The country needs to put its priorities straight, and it's not just food. North Korea lacks resources and technological advancements as well. With the birth rate plummeting, it could also face shortage of labor force. Was it a thought of this grim future that made Kim Jong-un cry? Or was it simply a rehearsed plea to convince North Korean mothers? We'll never know. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Well, a woman in Ohio got a taste of her own medicine. She was sentenced to a fast food job for throwing a burrito bowl at the store manager. Her choices were either jail or a stint in fast food. It seems like walking in someone else's shoes wasn't such a bad idea, given her limited options. 26-year-old Emily Russell, a fast food manager in Ohio, took a steaming hot chicken burrito bowl to the face, courtesy of 39-year-old Rosemary Hain, an angry customer who is now guilty of assault after she hurled the bowl in September this year. Social media went on a frenzy with Hain's outburst, with the entire video of the scuffle recorded. The visuals showed the fuming 39-year-old customer versus the 26-year-old manager, a screaming match which ends in a flying burrito bowl to the face. Just take a look and see for yourself. Oh my God! Well, but justice wasn't always so lenient for Hayne. She initially faced a hefty fine and 180 days of jail time until Judge Timothy Gilligan of Palmer Court had other ideas. He made her an offer she could not refuse, giving a chance to reduce her sentence by 60 days by working 20 hours a week at a fast food joint. Hayne agreed to this strange proposition. Meanwhile, Russell was traumatized. She recalls the months following the incident, her life's worst, feeling really unsafe at work in the days following this episode. As store manager, Russell was trying to protect a teen employee. Haynes made a 17-year-old staff remake the entire order twice. And while the staff tried hard to please the unruly customer, she returned only minutes later, even more furious than ever, and proceeded to fling a 200-degree hot burrito bowl at Russell, leaving her face burning red. Russell had faced past abuse, like having food and drinks thrown at her face, but nothing ever this extreme. Shockingly, even after the incident, she had to work more hours. Covered in food, she only got medical attention after her shift. She then checked herself into an emergency room. Meanwhile, Hayne, the perpetrator of the burrito attack, was quickly tracked down. Her car license plate and restaurant receipt gave her name and number away. Not exactly a master criminal, more like a Karen. Russell felt dejected by the lack of support, and she quit a month after the incident. Since then, she's now raising canes, gunning for a promotion as manager there. The incident has left her with anxiety. However, a GoFundMe campaign has raised $2,000 for her, which she intends to use to help keep her bills and her therapy going. On a positive note, though, Russell feels she has gotten justice and is happy with the judge's unique decision. Now, switching gears to another odd crime. This time in Tokyo, in Japan, a taxi driver was arrested for running over a pigeon. The cabbie at the Sushi Ozawa faces charges for pigeon-cide. Well, that's not actually a real term, but it sums up what happened. The vet who performed the post-mortem concluded that the bird died of traumatic shock after the hit and run. In a world where pigeons are often dismissed as pests, Japan's laws clearly beg to differ and is seemingly taking a firm position on the case. The cops are of the view that Ozawa deliberately targeted a flock. Tokyo police took him in for violating wildlife laws. He told the police while in custody that roads are for people and that pigeons should dodge cars. Clearly not a good look for him, given his situation. Japanese law protects urban pigeons unless they are officially proved to be a nuisance, and even then they require permission to kill from local authorities. According to reports, Ozawa's vehicular rampage was witnessed by a passerby. This eyewitness account resulted in the post-mortem and police scrutiny for the slain bird. Now, from Ohio to Tokyo, human oddities and legal quirks beg the question, what's weirder, the crime or the punishment? And now, well, it's only Wednesday, and I want to ask you all some questions. Has your work even been a productive week for you? Did you have a good start to the week? Do you look forward to going home every day after work? If the answer to all of those questions is yes, you are certainly a lucky minority. How does your life at home impact your professional life? It's a question we often ask ourselves. It's been the subject of multiple surveys and debates. TED Talks have been dedicated to achieving the perfect work-life balance. We've often heard our parents tell us, don't bring your work home, leave the stress of the job at office, switch off your phone after work. That meeting or Zoom call is not as important as your kid's bedtime. What about the other way around? Can stress at home impact your performance at work? One survey says yes, a bad day at home can certainly lead to a bad day at work. Now, this according to a new report by a consulting company in which over 1,000 professionals were surveyed. across sectors like construction, engineering, education, FMCG, hospitality, to name a few. What were the findings? 78% of respondents said that an unruly and unorganized personal life can lead to indiscipline at work. So the report said that a structured personal life is crucial for maintaining discipline and professionalism at work. This is not surprising. How we behave in our personal life says a lot about how we behave at work. For instance, if we are disciplined, we wake up at a certain time, stick to a workout routine, lead an active lifestyle, eat and drink in moderation, it makes us more productive at work. There is sufficient anecdotal evidence and studies to support this. Take the case of Dango. He is a popular fitness coach, has more than 500,000 followers on Instagram, and talks about the impact of health and fitness on your professional life. He says leading a healthy life can transform your business too. He has hundreds of thousands of followers who follow his tips. Now coming back to the survey, around 69% of professionals surveyed and said that a difficult personal life can lead to stress at work. Now, we don't have to tell you this. You probably already face this daily. You have a fight with your partner, an argument with a parent, your child throws a tantrum. Naturally, you're stressed and it impacts your productivity at work as well. The report states it clearly that family support is crucial for a healthy professional life. I couldn't agree more. And I'm surprised this even is a question. If you're a woman watching me right now, if you have kids, you would have often heard that the biological clock and the career clock are often in conflict. At least that's what society will have you believe. It takes a village to raise a kid, they say. And that's because it takes a village to help a mother do it all. If you're able to step out of home, work, chase our personal dreams, our ambition, it's because there is a comfort level at home. Someone there to look after our kids while we're away. So family support and professional success are not just linked, they're symbiotic. The same applies to men, or at least we certainly hope it does. 70% of respondents in the survey said that a role of a supportive family in your professional life is significant. They say it improves work efficiency, drives professional growth, motivates them to perform better. After all, if you love going home after a stressful day at work, it's because you have the support system helping you nurture your dreams. In 2023, the work-life balance debate has once again become mainstream. The pandemic forced us into work from home mode. But for many, work from home is now a choice, perhaps because of the proximity to family, to emotional support, to laughter and to love. Professional burnout is more common than we think, and according to Microsoft's Work Trend Index, in September 2022, more than half of the managers, that is 53%, felt burnout. This is a staggering figure. The interplay between work and home becomes more important now than ever. A happy home leads to a happy you. Think about it as you prepare for another day at work. And well, let's also get you what else is making news across the globe.
French President Emmanuel Macron on Wednesday attended a summit of G7 leaders via a video call from Paris's Élysée Presidential Palace to discuss international conflicts and goals to combat climate change. According to an Élysée statement, the leaders, who were joined by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and EU officials, discussed the global geopolitical situation amid the Ukraine war and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The severe cyclonic storm Mizoram, which crossed the Andhra Pradesh coast close to Bapatla on Tuesday, has subsequently weakened into a cyclonic storm, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Reports say Mizoram is expected to subside into a deep depression over the next 6 hours. According to local officials, the storm has damaged 770-kilometer roads, uprooted 35 trees and killed 3 livestock, among others. Nearly 40 lakh people from 194 villages and 2 towns have been affected by Mizoram's impact. 17 people were killed after a passenger bus careered off a road and plunged down a mountain in the central Philippines. The bus was traveling on an accident-prone section of road in Humtic municipality in Antique province when the crash happened. According to reports, 7 people are in critical condition in hospital and 4 others are stable. On Tuesday, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin met Swedish Defense Minister Paul Jonsson at the Pentagon to sign a defense cooperation agreement. During the meeting, Austin said both countries will continue to learn from each other, building defense capabilities and strengthening interoperability. The agreement comes as the Nordic country strengthens military alliances as it waits for approval from Turkey and Hungary to join NATO. Peru's constitutional court has ordered the release of former President Alberto Fujimori, who is serving a 25-year sentence for human rights abuses and corruption. The former president, who was in power through the 1990s, received a presidential pardon in 2017, but pressure from the Inter-American Court of Human Rights repeatedly snarled his attempts to regain freedom. Rishi Sunak's government has been accused by Keir Starmer of giving Rwanda hundreds of millions of pounds for nothing in return, following the signing of a deportation treaty. In a clash at Prime Minister's questions, the Labour leader mocked the treaty signed on Tuesday, saying the Rwandan government of President Paul Kagame had seen the Prime Minister coming a mile off. Russian President Vladimir Putin, in a meeting with United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, said that relations between Russia and the United Arab Emirates are at an unprecedented high. Putin said in televised comments that the situation in Ukraine and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict would also be among the topics of discussion. Putin is visiting the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia on a rare trip abroad. He will also hold talks with Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to discuss oil, OPEC Plus, and the conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine. Donald Trump said on Tuesday that he will not become a dictator if he becomes US president again, except on day one. The remarks came after warnings from Democrats and some Republicans that America was in danger of becoming an autocracy if he wins the 2024 election. Trump had to be asked twice during a television town hall event in Iowa to deny that he would abuse power to seek revenge on political opponents if re-elected. Trump said on day one he would use his presidential powers to close the southern border with Mexico and expand oil drilling. Argentina's World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi has been named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year for 2023. The Inter Miami forward is the first male football player to receive this honor. LeBron James scored 31 points as the Los Angeles Lakers beat Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns to reach the semifinals of the NBA's inaugural in-season tournament. The Lakers will now face the New Orleans Pelicans for a place in the title clash.
Well, India's Jammu and Kashmir has turned into a winter paradise. The Kashmir Valley stands covered in snow. Capital Srinagar just recorded the season's coldest night. Take a look. And well, speaking of the cold, while most of us probably want to be tucked up at home, Ken Stones from Norway decided to go out and break a world record. He shared a clip doing a depth dive on social media. Ken stood on a kind of mechanical ledge. Next we know, he jumped into the icy waters, breaking the world record for the highest deep dive. And we leave you with these visuals.
From the botched coup attempt in Sierra